Hello, my name's Tim Fisher. Today I'm going to show you my technique for painting winter trees. It's quite straightforward. Obviously this is just the technique. What you really need to do is go out there and look at trees and just understand their structure. But you must never get bogged down into every last little twig. You're basically looking at the overall structure of the tree and then bulking it out with some of your own painting techniques. So stay with me as I demonstrate how to paint a winter tree. To create a winter tree in watercolour, I employ the following technique. Firstly, using a nylon brush, this is a size 8, I'm going to start from the top of the tree and gradually paint downhill. I'm also using blue paint, so this is French ultramarine blue, and the reason I start painting with blue paint is this represents the branches that are the furthest away, and it helps to give the tree more of a three-dimensional effect. The reason I start at the top and work my way down is that I'm using gravity to help me, so the liquid paint is continually flowing down the tree. Now, one of the issues you have when you paint trees is that we often paint and don't overlap the branches. We also, when we try and paint trees, we paint them with an image that's inside our heads. One of the things I would always recommend you do before you paint any tree is to go out there and study your subject. So sketch it, look at it, understand its structure. Otherwise, when you start painting, you'll always end up drawing the tree that's in your head and not a real tree. Real trees can be quite different in their structure to how we imagine, and trees, like anything, as it gets older, bits drop off and it goes slightly out of balance in its shape, which all again helps to add to the quirkiness and the unusualness of this particular subject. Now, with this technique I can keep building up the branches. As I come down the tree, I gradually add stronger, heavier, heftier branches. By working with blue paint, as I build up the structure of the tree, a lot of these blue branches will tend to disappear into the structure of the tree. Gradually working my way down now, and probably another stronger branch breaking up through the side of the tree there. Now, when you're painting trees, one of the things to be aware of is, I forgot what I'm talking about. One of the things you have to try and do when you're painting trees is try not to end up with too much of a lollipop shape. The other interesting thing you notice with winter trees is that some of the tiny branches at the end tend to curl upwards slightly. The tree is anticipating the weight of the leaves that it will get on it in the summer, and once you get leaves on a tree, you tend to find that the branches tend to drop down the other way. You see now it's starting to build up in shape. It's got a slightly pointy top, this tree. Let's just bring a few more branches just to change the shape of it and make it just a little bit more rounded there. And then as we come down, I'm going to put bigger and bigger branches on, and some of these big branches are now starting to go the other way, so the weight of the branches is starting to pull them downhill. And as I said earlier on, don't be afraid to let these branches cross over. There's nothing worse than looking at a tree and it appears that all the branches just seem to be coming out of the side. I think we're about at ground level there, and that's got my basic tree structure. The other advantage of painting with blue is that it's easier to correct. If you make a mistake, just dab it with a tissue and it'll soon correct itself. What I'm going to do now is add a second layer. So that was French ultramarine blue. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to mix in a little raw sienna into that French ultramarine blue mix. It doesn't make a bright green, it makes a more of a darker green that you would expect to see in a tree. And some of the branches I'll trace over and re-establish. Others I'll leave as they are. I'll leave them as blue and just let those sit back. And blue recedes, so when you paint things blue in watercolour they seem further away. So we use this trick in painting trees whereby the blue branches are going to seem further away than the darker branches, and this helps to give a tree a feeling of three-dimensionality. Let's just very quickly start to develop this structure. Another thing you can do with trees, if you find that your trunk shape has gone a bit awry, is you can put some ivy growing up it. What I'm doing to create the ivy, I'm making a slightly brighter green. So instead of yellow ochre, I've introduced another colour which is called Sennelier Yellow Light, and just put a little bit of ivy breaking up the tree. Make it slightly more interesting. And now to finish off we need to go in with the dark. So now I'm going to bring in Venetian red, which is a dull red, and when I mix that in with the blue I get a nice dark tone. And I'm just going to feed the wash now. So this is also giving us a light direction now. The light appears to be coming from the left hand side and striking the tree. And again I'm going to put some fine branches coming out of the tree. Give it more of a three-dimensional shape. Now what we've got at this stage, we haven't got a winter tree, we've got a dead tree. It's actually quite difficult to get line fine enough with a brush to show all the really fine branches that are on a tree. So what we do, we employ a little trick to suggest the really fine branches. And basically what I do, I mix a mixture of cadmium orange and Venetian red, and this gives the bud bloom, the blush that we see on a tree that, although it's alive, is dormant. And so using the side of the brush, just drag that through there, and that starts to give the impression that the tree is alive. But also we can play with the shape of the tree as well now. We want to have a slightly lopsided shape. We could maybe even suggest a bit of a fallen branch just down there, and maybe a bit of fencing. And the tree is almost finished now. I'm going to go and work back into this with dark paint. I'm working very quickly so that the paint dissolves into the orange wash that I've just put onto the painting. With practice you can get a very fine line with your brush. You obviously need a good brush and one that comes to a good point. Obviously as you work with larger trees then you need to just scale up on your brush. This is a size 6, you really need to go up to a size 10 or a 12 if you're doing say a half imperial painting that features some fairly large trees. So there's my winter tree. There, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to find a bit more out about me, feel free to visit my website, which should appear below me in a few seconds. Also, if you want to see some of my other videos, please browse YouTube to see some of the other videos that are produced by Jackson Stops. Anyway, see you again sometime. Bye.